question should be no. The jury may not extend damages to a figure that plaintiff's evidence doesn't factually support. The jury should be charged again and told that they are required to base their verdict on the evidence, not on anything else. Thank you, counsel. I hold that we will answer the question in the affirmative. The plaintiff did request punitive damages, so the jury may award damages in excess of the $3 million. I will so instruct them. Objection for the record, Bennie said reflexively. She glanced over at Ray, who looked as if he were ready to hurl. The deputy clerk brought the jury back into the courtroom, and the judge answered their question and sent them out to deliberate again. Then the judge and his staff left the courtroom. The plaintiff and his lawyer gloated down the aisle, and Bennie turned to Ray, but by now she had her bearings. "Ray, don't freak," she said, but it was too late. "This is a disaster! A disaster! How can they do this to me?" "Forget the question. We don't know what it means, and we can't do anything about it. Our defense went in very nicely. You were a great witness, and so were Jake and Marty. We're in the right. We told the truth. So stay the course." "The course is what got me here. The course is going to kill me." Ray set down the cup, spilling water on the table. "Shouldn't I settle? Maybe I can still settle." "They wanted $500,000 last time we asked, and you didn't have it. You not go for a gas station since then?" Bennie didn't wait for an answer. "And I'm sure their demand just went up. So we have no choice but to wait." "But it's like waiting to get hit by a train. I'm tied to the tracks here." "Wait and stay calm." "Easy for you to say," Ray exploded, his voice echoing in the empty courtroom. His eyes flashed with sudden anger. "If I lose, you won't have to pay a dime. You just go to the next case. You're a typical fucking lawyer." Bennie felt stung. Silence fell between them. "We're in this together, Ray," she said. She didn't expect him to believe it. But it was true. Only half an hour later, court was back in session, and the jury was entering the jury box. Judge Burton was sitting in his black leather chair atop the dais, eyeing the jurors over his reading glasses. When they were resettled and looking at him, he addressed them. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor," answered the foreman. He rose and handed the verdict sheet to the deputy clerk. Bennie held her breath. Ray clenched his fists. The deputy clerk handed the verdict sheet to Judge Burton, who opened and read it to himself, his expression impassive. Then he handed it back to the deputy clerk, who puffed out his chest, held the paper high, and read it aloud. "Question. Do you find the defendant is liable to the plaintiff, and if so, what are his damages?" Answer. "We find the defendant not liable." "Yes, yes, yes!" Bennie felt like shouting for joy. They had won! She nodded toward the jury in gratitude as Ray grabbed her hand and squeezed it hard. She looked over, and he'd burst into a broad grin, which didn't let up even as the jurors were polled by a shocked plaintiff's lawyer, answered, "Not liable," one by one, then were dismissed by the judge, who left the room with his staff, closing the door behind them. "Congratulations!" Bennie shouted when they were alone again, and Ray leapt into her arms. She gave him a heartfelt hug. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so happy, or so relieved. "We won, Ray! Thank God! I won! I won!" Ray yelled, and when she broke their embrace, his eyes were welling up behind his glasses. "Oh, it's all over, Ray." Bennie gave him another hug. She'd never seen a grown accountant cry. So what if he'd gotten a little jerky in the clutch? "Enjoy it! We won!" "I know. I can't believe it." Ray took off his glasses and squeezed his eyes with his thumb and index finger, trying to regain his composure. "You said I would, and I did." "I won't even say I told you so." Bennie clapped him on the back and picked up her briefcase and bag. "Come on, let's go celebrate. Drinks on you." But when Ray removed his hands from his eyes and replaced his glasses, he still looked miserable. His forehead creased with anxiety, his eyes brimmed with tears, and his lower lip trembled. "Ray, cheer up! We won! It's all over!" "It's not that." Ray cleared his throat and met her gaze with wet eyes. "I have something to tell you." "What?" "I can't pay." Bennie smiled. "I was only kidding, Ray. Drinks on me." "No, I mean, I can't pay you." Ray squared his narrow shoulders. "What I owe you. Your fee." "Ray, I'm counting on this fee." Bennie had put in almost 250 hours on this case this quarter, with trial preparation and trial. Even if she billed him $50 an hour for her time, she was still cheaper than a plumber. "You owe me almost $15,000. I can't absorb that kind of loss. I have a payroll to meet." "I can't pay you, Bennie." "You can pay some, can't you?" "Not a penny. I'm sorry." "But what about the experts we hired for the trial? You have to pay them. I promised you'd pay them. I'm not allowed to, even if I had the money." "Sorry." Bennie reeled. She couldn't process it fast enough. She was still feeling residually happy about the victory. She had won and lost in the same moment. She didn't know what to say or do. There was no trial wisdom about this. Nobody wise ever let this happen. And Ray looked so stricken she didn't have the heart to kill him. On autopilot, Bennie picked up her briefcase and bag. "I gotta get back to work," she said. But she was talking more to herself than to him. Friday morning, Bennie squirmed in her desk chair and crossed one strong leg over the other. She hated pantyhose, and she had more important things than lingerie to think about, like the new client coming in. She needed a new case desperately after yesterday's debacle with Ray Finalil, but at the moment the fashion police were at the door, and they had a warrant. "Open up," Anne Murphy called through the door, and in the next second burst into the office. Anne had long red hair, the gorgeous features of a runway model, and a law degree from Stanford. Naturally, everybody had hated her instantly when she joined Rosato and Associates, and they were only now starting to forgive her DNA. Anne clapped her hands together like a drill sergeant with a French manicure. "Stand up, let's see 'em." "No, I have to get ready for the meeting," Bennie said, but she wasn't sure she could stand anyway. The control-top waistband bisected her ovaries like a do-it-yourself hysterectomy. "Let me see." Anne strode around the side of Bennie's desk in heels high enough to cause nosebleeds and a black knit dress that outlined her curves. At 20-something, she had yet to learn that knit dresses were the enemy. She appraised Bennie's legs with a delighted eye. "Awesome! They totally finish your look." "What, the sausage and natural casing look?" Bennie struggled to her feet to discourage the formation of blood clots and caught sight of her pained expression in her office window. Otherwise, she had on the same khaki suit as yesterday, with her hair a little neater. "These stockings are too tight, Murphy." "Thank God I had them. Note to Bennie, don't wear anything they sell in the grocery store." "But the tube socks are a deal." "I hope you're kidding. Those pantyhose you have on, they're from Nordstrom's." Anne handed Bennie a shiny package. "If you insist on wearing pantyhose, which I told you are so over, these are the only ones that don't suck." "Don't say suck in the office," Bennie corrected. "You say suck?" "Not anymore. I'm on a curse diet." "Suck is not a curse." "Shh!" Bennie was scanning the empty package, which pictured a completely naked woman lounging beneath the price tag. She didn't know which surprised her more, the full frontal or the price. "Murphy, you buy pantyhose that cost $17? "Of course. Wear them. You want the new client to think you're a loser?" "I'm not a loser," Bennie shot back, unaccountably defensive. She was one of the best trial lawyers in Philadelphia, practically undefeated in both civil and criminal cases. It was beside the point that she was almost broke, had failed at 2 serious relationships, and bought her pantyhose at Acme. "Damn it. It's okay to buy pantyhose at Acme." "But look at the ones I gave you. The color is perfect." Bennie couldn't stop thinking about the $17. She hadn't paid herself a salary in 2 months, and was rapidly losing her sense of humor. And Ray Finalil wasn't the only one of her clients in deep financial trouble. The recession had already bankrupted 2 of her bread-and-butter corporate clients, Caveson Inc. and Maytel. As a result, Bennie had been up most of last night, going over the books. Her firm couldn't survive on her personal savings for more than 2 months. She'd already cut their expenses to the bone, and at the moment she was looking into the guileless green eyes of her newest associate, who would be the first lawyer to be laid off. Just then laughter came from the open door, where the other young associates, Mary D'Annunzio and Judy Carrier, had materialized. At least Bennie thought it was Judy Carrier, but she had to do a double take. The associate was wearing Judy's artsy corduroy smock and white T-shirt, and a familiar grin warmed her round, pretty face. But her formerly lemony hair had been hacked off around her ears, and the entire moplet had been colored a hot pink. Bennie was horrified. "Carrier, you dyed your hair," she said, instead of the profane alternative she favored. It was hard not to curse at work. Maybe she could just cut down. Did they have a patch or something? "What possessed you? You're a lawyer." I'm an artist, too.